Does the UFC hate Bellator? A part of me a while ago when Bellator was still around, I would probably say yes. And then, once Bellator was bought out and they started signing fighters, a part of me would say no. Because, obviously they signed Eddie Alvarez and he went on to win the belt. And then they signed Michael Chandler, who, has had an up and down career in the UFC. More up than down in terms of like he gained a bunch of fans, made a ton of money, but down in the sense of like he's 2-5, right? And so there's this little bit of a dilemma where it's like, does the UFC hate Bellator and they're exposing, quote unquote, their fighters by signing them and placing them up against their, top 5 guys and then having them come over and lose, right? Like we've seen recently with Patchy Mix, Pitbull Silva, and Aaron Pico. Now, Pitbull Silva is 1-1, right? He lost to, I forget who in his first fight. I know, I'm not going to look it up. He lost his debut, and then he beat, Yair Rodriguez, and then he beat Dan Ige, right? In a really good fight, really good, it was a close fight. I do think he won the fight. He looked good, and I think he's starting to get his footing down. But most recently and most egregiously, the loss this past weekend of Aaron Pico. And, him coming in his first fight, I was kind of already questioning the matchup against Evlov because Evlov's ranked number 1. Like, he's like the next in line, right? And so that was already like an asterisk for me where it's like, this doesn't seem right. And then you go on and, Evlov pulls out. So then they put him against Leron Murphy, who's number 6, but he's on an 8-fight win streak. And he's like one of the top prospects. And at any given win, especially this last one that's happened, he's going to get a title shot. Now, he's, in my opinion, definitely going to get a title shot with this last win over Aaron Pico. Like, how could you not? He, the UFC was literally like, hey, we got this up-and-coming dude. Everyone thinks he's badass. He's actually going to be the favorite when he fights against you, and you knock him out. Okay, so, yeah, you got to be, number 1 pick. But UFC kind of has this problem where they kind of handle superstars from outside of the division, or outside of the organization. They bring them in and they kind of fast track them, right? We've seen that with Kaya Sakura versus Pantoja, which was kind of called for because, who does Pantoja fight really in that division? It was kind of like one of those Demetrius Johnson dilemmas where they literally made an Ultimate Fighter and the winner of the Ultimate Fighter fights Demetrius Johnson. Crazy. And so there's a little bit of a, does the UFC hate Bellator, guys? And at first I was kind of like, no, I don't think they do because, Michael Venom Page comes over. He's like the golden horse of this whole thing. He's like, he comes over, does really well against top, tier opponents. But in my opinion, it's because he has very, very high level striking. And he's getting really good matchups, right? He's not getting guys that are just going to go in there, submit him, right? He's not getting, the Fluffy Hernandezes of the division, right? That are going to go in there, use all of their martial arts to get you to the ground and choke you out, okay? They're putting him up against a little bit favorable matchups like Ian Gary, Jared Cannonier, more striker guys, striker-heavy guys, right? And, I know Jared Cannonier is bigger. This was his toughest test, in my opinion, MVP, and he shined perfectly, and I called it. I predicted it to a T that he was going to be too much on the feet for Jared Cannonier, and he was. And so the point I'm trying to make is that it was very egregious of how they did Aaron Pico. You can make a very, very solid argument with Patchy Mix, Silva, Michael Chandler, Eddie Alvarez, to put them into the UFC and immediately put them against the top-ranked guys because they were champions in Bellator. Name one time Aaron Pico won a belt outside of the division. I'm going to save you the time. He hasn't, right? He's not a champion outside of UFC, which, he does have the capabilities to be in the Bellator champion whenever they were around, or PFL champion, absolutely. But he wasn't, and he never was. And he lost 4 times, right? He's lost before the UFC. He was, 13-4 or something like that. And he had 3 losses, and I think they were all knockouts, like out cold knockouts, not just TKOs, like out cold knockouts, right? So bringing him in against these top guys that are like literally the best in the world was kind of, I do think they were trying to. I think they were trying to really, really test this guy of, hey, you're either the best or you're not. And, we found out the answer. And he was doing very, very well. So it's not like he can't hang with these guys, right? In the UFC's flyweight or featherweight division, the top, top guys, top ranked guys. It's not that he can't hang with them. I just think it's too much too fast, right? We need the UFC, when I say we, the UFC needs to get someone like Aaron Pico, a superstar in his own right, a potential superstar, and they need to put him on the featured prelim against an unranked or top 15, right? And between 11 and 15. Give him a favorable matchup, kind of like you did MVP, because he could have easily been a superstar the way MVP's making himself to be a superstar, and build these guys up. Because the thing is like Leron Murphy, he knocks out Aaron Pico, and that's a very good job on his end. Me personally, I'm going, okay, that's Aaron Pico, a person who came from a different organization, never was champion in that organization. You knock him out in 2 minutes, like that's kind of supposed to happen. You're ranked number 6, like that was supposed to happen. You were supposed to beat this guy. So does that really warrant a championship? I guess it does, because of the state of the division right now, because who else is going to get the belt, right? And it's like, if Imavov was going to beat him, or whatever the fuck his name is, Ivlov, if he were to beat Aaron Pico, he would have got the championship shot, so fuck it, right? Leron Murphy, right? So we can make a solid argument why Leron Murphy's getting the title shot. If the division was in a different state, where Ivlov just fought 2 weeks ago and he just beat the guy, or whatever, he hasn't fought in 4 months and beat a guy, he's going to get the title shot, and Leron Murphy's like, give me the title shot, I beat Aaron. I would have been like, nah, you got to wait your turn in line, right? But obviously that's not the case with the division. Someone needs to have the next title shot. Obviously, I do think it's Leron Murphy, because if it was somebody else that was ranked and he beats them, he's getting the title shot almost anyway, because, the other guy pulled out. But my thing is like, it hurts the UFC a little bit, in my opinion. It doesn't really hurt the UFC, but in my eyes, it's kind of like, yeah, you brought in Aaron Pico. He was supposed to come in, fight the fucking number 6 in the world. In my opinion, he's supposed to lose this fight, and he does lose the fight. Okay, so what does that do for Aaron Pico? What does that do for the UFC? Like, you're just, like, what you could have done was put him against an unranked fighter in the featured prelim, or the very first fight of the main card. He goes out there, starches the dude, or has a stellar performance, and then you guys go, look, see, we got another superstar on our hands. Let's give him another guy he can knock out. And boom, knock this guy out. And don't tell me that they don't give favorable matchups to people, because they do. They did it with Sean O'Malley. They gave him people, he could potentially knock out. Flying colors. And then they gave him Chito Vera. I will say that. Like, they gave him Chito very early in his career. I will say that. And, people like MVP, they give him favorable matchups, exciting matchups against guys who are going to strike with them, right? And even though Ian Gary did a really good job taking him down and using his MMA, whatever. What I'm trying to say is they could have did Aaron Pico a little bit better than what they did, right? You could give an argument why Silva got a top guy, why Patchy Mix got a top guy, why Michael Chandler, Eddie Alvarez, all these guys were champions in Bellator. Aaron Pico wasn't. And I know MVP, I don't think he was. Maybe he was. I don't think he was, though. He might have been. Don't quote me on that. And we know how good MVP is on the feet. He only got knocked out once by Lima, and he starches everybody. He has one of the craziest highlight reels of all time. So it's like, yeah, put him against who the fuck ever. Let's see if they can hang with him on the feet. And, Aaron Pico does have that knockout ability, but like I was saying during the prediction video I made, it's like, you take all of his fighters that he's ever fought, compare them to Leron Murphy, they're not really anybody special, right? So I do think they fast-tracked Aaron Pico in the wrong way. They should have gave him, an unranked or a top 15, 11 through 15 guy, had him have a good performance there, and then we build this guy, because Aaron Pico could have been a superstar. We could have made more money off from Aaron Pico, put more eyes on Aaron Pico, made the division that much better with Aaron Pico, but it is what it is. And then at the end of the day, like, everybody would have won, right? Like, everyone would have won there. Aaron Pico would have won. The UFC would have won, because people would have come back and watch Aaron Pico fights. Now, guess what? When Aaron Pico comes back and he has his next fight, I don't think people are gonna want to tune into that. Maybe they might just to see like, all right, maybe he did bite off a little bit more than he could chew. Let's see how he does against this guy. But imagine if he goes in there at UFC 319, starts as the dude, gets another guy. I think even more people are gonna tune in. They're gonna have a better opinion about Aaron Pico, right? But yeah, that's my thoughts. I don't think the UFC necessarily hates Bellator, right? Because you can argue why they're giving these guys top flight contenders. It's because they're champions in their own right. So it is what it is. Aaron Pico, I feel bad for that guy, even though it's like, hey, it's the fight game. It happens, right? But, sitting back on the outside is kind of like, they did him a little dirty. But, it is what it is. He's gonna be back. He's a warrior. I hope he takes a lot of time off. I hope he comes back better than ever. Can't wait to see him again. But that's the video. Peace out. Like, subscribe. Deuces.